Hi, and welcome to the Serve2Perform podcast. My name is Angelica Casares, and I am your host. On this episode, you're going to listen to some amazing testimonials from Ana Arguello, Garrard, and Greth. Enjoy. Welcome back to the Serve2Perform podcast. I'm your host, Angelica Casares, and my next guest is Ana Arguello. Ana Arguello, thank you so much for coming to the podcast today.
Thank you.
Usually I introduce the guest, but I know some of you. I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself.
Wonderful. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here.
Absolutely.
It's such an honor, especially I feel that I'm here with my family. This is a conversation between familia. I feel that I'm having even like a cafecito. My name is Ana Arguello. So I am Mexican. Mm-hmm. I am a super proud Latina. I am a mom of two. So I have Isabela Maria, my daughter, she's 11. And I have Mateo, he's 7. I've been married for 14 years. And we have been living in the U.S. for the past 10 years. I love Northwest Arkansas. So we've lived in a lot of different locations in the U.S. and around the world. But Northwest Arkansas has a special vibe, a special energy. And I've loved, over the years to see the Hispanic population growing. It's becoming such a relevant community. And I'm just inspired to see all the things and all the opportunities that we have ahead of us.
Yeah, lots going on here.
Lots going on. And I am recently, I took the role for vice president in Walmart. So I'm responsible for stationery, and we have the huge...
I heard this is a new role for you.
Yes.
Congratulations.
So I'm excited. We have the responsibility of leading back to school. So bringing back to school to America, it's a big responsibility, and it's a lot of fun. So we do all the office supplies. I've been with the company for 17 years. So my background is merchandising, global sourcing, and international. And I haven't been bored, not even one day.
That's a lot of words. I'm not sure what that means. I'm not sure I know what stationery means, merchandising means. I'm assuming it's that part of the section where you get the birthday card, the anniversary card, and all those items. So I have a few questions really quick before we jump into what Serve2Perform has done for you. I want to get to know you. How did you end up here?
That's a great question. So working with Walmart, I started in Walmart, Mexico. I started in a merchandising position. I was buying consumables and food and just different categories. And there was an opportunity for me to come to the U.S. So we thought, well, let's give it a try. We have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And my husband and I moved to Northwest Arkansas 10 years ago, as I mentioned, and we loved it. It wasn't in our plans originally, and it just made sense. I guess it was destiny, Angelica. What can I tell you?
So merchandising there at Walmart, what degree did you like? What did you do in Mexico before you even started working for Walmart?
So I studied international business, and then I did a master in corporate communication. I also had the opportunity to live in Paris, France, and I did another master degree in political administration. Actually, I thought at the beginning of my career that I was going to do something in politics.
Yeah.
I thought that I was going to do something in the government or in that type of field. And, Walmart called, and they were like, well, we think that your profile would be perfect for us, your values. I think that you would be great working with, just people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, working with people, that resonated with me. And retail, that's what retail is about. It's a people business, and that's how I find my energy.
Okay. So you said you have 2 daughters.
Yes.
Talk to me about being a mother.
Being a mother is the best thing. It's the best thing. It's actually where I find my sense of purpose as a human. It allows me to have the perfect perspective, and it allows me the opportunity to give the right dimension to things. You might be at work thinking that it's the end of the world, that you have this huge issue, or just going through any drama. And you just go back home and you see those adorable faces, and they ask you whatever question, and you're like, everything's going to be okay.
Do you feel like what you do today in your work reflects like what you daughters want to encounter when they go into the work field?
I think that my kids are definitely inspired by Walmart. I mean, they have seen, mom, working for Walmart for years and years. And every time that we go to the stores, they're always asking questions and they're curious. But more than that, I think I've been very intentional about, instilling, values. values and instilling a culture of hard work and resilience and having empathy for people, generosity, servant leadership. Even though you don't use those words with little kids, I think they can learn and appreciate and absorb more than you can imagine.
That's the second time I've heard the word servant leadership. What does that mean? Not only to you, but what does it mean?
I think it's being humble. It's been humble. It's thinking that leadership is it's an act of serving others. So you have the position that you have, and that responsibility is to make others thrive. It's not about you. It's about the person that it's in front of you, and you have, the mission to make sure that they're successful, that they can develop, that they can, fulfill their maximum potential.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit now about Serve2Perform. How did you first find out about it? And maybe leading up to that, can you tell me a little bit how it's impacted you?
Absolutely. So I know that Serve2Perform has a long history with Walmart. Many, many leaders at all levels of the organization have been supporting through the years in many ways. And I was very intrigued. I mean, I've seen a lot of the things that you guys are doing in terms of, mentoring or, Hispanic Heritage Month or the SEAL program or supporting Latinos in the boardroom. Like there's so many initiatives. So at the beginning, it was just, an incipient, little organization with this great goal and this big ambition. And then all of a sudden, it was a huge organization with all these different companies and sectors. An amazing job. Just this organic, accelerated growth and just beyond retail, which is what you would expect from Northwest Arkansas. But Serve2Perform is actually touching so many different industries and so many different sectors. And as the population is growing, there's so much, credibility. When you say Serve2Perform in the Latino professional community, they know exactly what we're talking about. And everyone feels that it's a safe space. Everyone feels that it's a space where you can do a network, where people actually get you, and where you can be yourself. And I think that's powerful.
Absolutely. To be able to feel safe in a community that you can opinionate or that you're going to be listened to when you're there. Have you done part of their programs or have you done some of their programs? I
am acting right now as part of a member of the board.
Okay.
So that has been super, super inspiring for me to understand, the strategic opportunities, building a roadmap ahead, building, better governance, better allies, making sure that we have the right funds to continue to grow in a disciplined way. So just, making sure that we can connect the dots and do it in a way that matters and that impacts the community.
So where would you like to see Serve2Perform, say within the next year?
I wouldn't say necessarily growth for sure. I would love to grow. I mean, and I think as a merchant, wearing my merchant hat, growth is always in my mentality. But I think, that growth with quality, that sustainable growth where we can actually leave a legacy, making sure that it's not growth for the sake of delivering numbers, but for the sake of actually building a legacy for the community. I think the more we can, tell that story about, we're building something that is greater than us.
Yes.
We're building something that's beyond, the people that are serving today. I think that will get others inspired and it will create a domino effect for sure.
Oh, I think I'm already part of it, but I want to sign up again. Like the way you explained it, it's such in a way, I want things to be, at least in the community that I live in, to be in such a natural way of growth that aligns also with my values, but what I'm trying to achieve. So tell me, you've been part of Serve2Perform for quite some time. What is something that you wanted others to know about Serve2Perform?
I would love for people to give it a chance, to give it a try. Again, as I said, I think it's a great opportunity, number one, if you're new to the area, to find a way, just a forum to feel that you belong. Number one, I don't think that there's anything more human than aspiring to belong to a team, a group. I just feel that empathy, right? So if you're new, number one, this is a great place to, get to know other people that might share a lot of the same aspirations or that might have the same, anxiety about, professional development or simply you don't know what's your next step in your career and that's okay. It's a good space for you to be vulnerable. because you might be in a very similar journey as many others, and that's okay.
That's amazing.
So I think I would love for people to be out of their comfort zone. Even when they think that they're getting everything that they could be getting out of their development, I'm pretty sure that if they come to Serve to Perform, they're going to find something else that is going to add tremendous value.
So Serve to Perform, it's a way that the community is navigating. Have you ever encountered an organization like this?
I don't think that I have encountered an organization like this that has such a breadth of programs. I've seen organizations in the past that are a lot more focused in one, specific segment, either, young professionals or like super senior executives or, board members and the C-suite. So I think this is the first organization that can truly cover the whole spectrum. So that's very unique, but it also creates, if you connect the dots between all those different segments, you can create a very effective pipeline. Like you can really help activate the economy of Northwest Arkansas. You can really create a pool of talent and just change the demographics of the area.
You're saying a lot of what I'm liking. So I'm trying to get you to say more of that. Okay. But how can I ask this question? So how can I say I am part of an organization or I'm part of a company and I want to get into it. I want to be able to do something. If I can't attend Serve to Perform, what would you recommend for those young professional adults to get into?
What specific program you mean?
Not necessarily specific, or where should they start?
They should start by asking, really the staff from Serve to Perform to say, where am I at in terms of my journey? In terms of like current state, strengths and weaknesses, and then understand the plethora of different, activities and curriculum we have. And I think they would be like really good guides and counselors to say that this might be the right fit and this is why. And they can help you connect the dots to say, what are the things that you need for that development. I think the other thing is once they understand what is your real need and where do you want to go, even like matching you with the right mentor.
Yeah.
Like, they have great visibility in terms of, amazing professionals in the area, and they can say, I happen to know someone that might be just the perfect person that you need to meet and just have a conversation, as if you were friends, super casual, and maybe you can define different avenues or find different blind spots about your professional career, and you would be impressed. But again, I'm going to go back to that comment at the beginning. You have to be willing to be out of your comfort zone. You need to be willing to be open for feedback. And sometimes feedback, I know that people say that it's a gift, but it's sometimes pretty hard to get that real feedback.
It is.
But we need it.
Yeah, it is. It is. So before we go away, before we end the interview, what would you like to tell the young professionals? What would you like to say to them to, say I want to be Anna?
I would say be you.
Okay.
Be you. The world is yours, and don't let anyone tell you different. You can achieve whatever you want. All the barriers and all of that, it's in our mind. Most of the ghosts, that we have, these are just, things that live in our mind, but just don't allow yourself to have any type of constraints. Be proud of who you are. Be proud of your cultural heritage. Be proud of your identity. Be proud of your accent. It explains and it tells the story of who you are and where you come from.
It does.
And that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Plus, when you are yourself, there's some power behind that because you actually allow others to be themselves.
When you show up as yourself.
When you show up.
Yeah.
So that's pretty. That's unique, right?
It is.
So I would say be you, be proud, show up, and believe in the power of intentionality.
Okay.
So if you want to grow, you need to own it. You are the architect of your own destiny, and you're responsible to make it work.
If you haven't written a book, please write a book. Because I believe a lot what you're saying, the messaging, it's a kind of, it's what we all need. Not only the Latinos, but it truly, honestly, it's what we all need to hear. Thank you. Thank you for coming today.
Muchas gracias. Un placer.
Hi, and welcome back to the Serve2Perform podcast. I am your host, Angelica Casares, and on this episode, we have Brad Garrard. Brad Garrard is the VP of Engineering and Technology with J.B. Hunt. So we were calmly talking for just a moment here before, but how long have you been with J.B. Hunt?
Yeah, so I've been with J.B. Hunt for 30 years now, and time has flown by. And I didn't start in ENT. I actually started out in the shops and really got to know the business out there before I moved into the corporate life. When I moved into corporate, I actually worked in night safety with Greer Woodruff. He's our senior leader of that area now. He had just moved to days at the time. So, while I got my degree at the University of Arkansas, I worked nights there and learned the business. And then I moved in engineering and technology in 98. I started as an intern, worked my way up through the ranks, was an architect for a long time before I decided to jump into leadership. But that's where I landed, and I felt like I could accomplish more as a leader than as an individual contributor, and it was a good move.
Yeah, absolutely. So you went to school and worked at J.B. Hunt at the same time?
I did. J.B. Hunt was very, they worked well with me. I worked at nights in the safety department. So if there were accidents, that's the kind of thing I did. And in the slow times, they were okay. Me doing some homework or whatever I needed to do. But that got me through college, and J.B. Hunt, they even paid for a portion of that. And so, I bleed black and yellow, and will continue to do everything that's right for the scroll. But it's just been a great place to be.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you so much for being with us here today. So I have a few questions about Serve2Perform and your experience there. So my first question is, how has your executive coaching service elevated your career or empowered you as a leader?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I thought about it a lot of how I would answer a question like that because, I could do a sales pitch on why you need to do executive coaching, but I'm not going to be a brochure, and I'll just tell you what it's done for me.
Awesome.
I was fortunate enough, Adam came on site and he was my executive coach. And for me anyway, and what it did for me, it just opened my eyes to really self-awareness. You talk about as a leader, you want to have things like empathy, but you just don't go out there and do that. And so executive coaching also can be seen as, a negative thing, like a weakness. It's not. And you got, I'm a sports fan, and those of us that watch sports, those NFL guys and NBL guys, they go out there and they practice every day, and they have a coach. They're just not playing the game all the time. But we as leaders, there's no handbook for that, and we're in the game all the time. And so taking a step back and having a coach like Adam come in for me, I took that time to reflect and do some self-awareness, and it expanded that. And so, to dig into that is, this really, I was focused as a leader on just what I need to do to climb the ladder and do the job and get stuff done and plow anyone over that's in my way. That's not how you want to be a good leader, and we all speak of the things like a servant leader and the empathy, like I mentioned. But in order to do that, at least for me, it took Adam coming in and talking to me. And it's more than just work, because for me, it's my work, it's my faith, it's my family, it's my friends. And if any one of those things gets out of balance, I'm not my best at the other. And so I realized anyway that I had some other things to do even outside the work. And not that I'm a bad friend or a dad or a husband or any of that, but you realize one thing consumes you so much, and you're not your best person on all fronts. And so for me, Adam taught me how to do that. And just get everything out of my head that I'm worried about. And I realized there's things that you can't change on the work front. And so there's no need in wasting time on that. But so getting all of that out, and then understanding how to be a best version of myself on the family front, as well as the friend, my faith, those are things that made me a better leader. This was a process. It wasn't one session with Adam, and it took me a while to get there. It was a journey for me. But on the other side, I was a better leader because of it. I was a better leader at work. I had people recognize it at work, what changed. So I'd tell the story. I had people notice outside of work. And so overall, I'm a better person. And, every time I see Adam, I thank him. I owe him. And so I thank you for the opportunity to come in here and tell you my story. And I hope this reaches more people
absolutely.
Now with that opportunity. So
I like that a lot. So being a leader and executive is much more than just the corporate world. You definitely have to be, or look to be, more of a well-rounded person, to say the least. I really like that response. I really enjoyed that. So let's, my second question to you is, how have you seen Serve2Perform executive coaching impact your team and your department?
Yeah. And so I mentioned, in my first response there, I mentioned empathy. So I do want to expand on that a little bit. And, when I expanded my self-awareness, what that did, that also expanded my ability to have empathy for others. You don't just do that. That's a thing as a human being you want to say you have. But when you're trying to get stuff done, you kind of lose sight of that. But that's important. And so when you pick up the phone as a leader and you're doing that, I call it sideways communication, where I've got to go talk to another team's leader and have them join us to get something done. I realized that, having empathy, I'm not the only person they're dealing with on that day. They also have all the things that I've struggled with as a leader. And so to talk to them as a human being is an important thing. And that's our culture. So now you're getting into culture. And so this program has made me a stronger leader, which in turn is making others stronger. And then that's sideways communication. And so I've improved that with just my other peers and even upward communication. But even down to my team now, well, guess what? And executive coaching, not that it's not for everyone, but you want to start at the top. If the top's not doing these things, how do you expect the people down below you to do these things? And so as a result of picking, and that's where everybody's different. For me, it's like, do you start with VPs? What does your senior leadership look like? Okay. That's where you want to start, because then you're going to have a trickle down effect on their teams. My teams, I've got about 150 to 200 people in my organization. And so as a result of this, I've got higher performing teams because of the executive coaching I went through. And this empathy that I'm talking about is so powerful. And just the self-awareness and the things that I did to kind of reflect back. We've got a lot on our plates as leaders, and there's a lot of plates you try to spin. It's easy to just push that down on your teams and ask them to do that or pound your fists on the table, but that's not how you get stuff done. And so it's really helped me navigate that.
I like that. Building empathy and soft skills.
Right.
I really, really like that.
Well, it's easy to say though, right? I mean, because, as a leader, and if you're sitting there, those are hard things to even gauge in an interview. Think about it. Everybody can have a great conversation one time, but when you want people to run through a brick wall for you, you need to be a great leader. The best version of yourself is going to get you there, but you want other leaders to recognize that too and emulate that. And so if you don't have enough of that in your organization, you're not going to see as much progress as what we've seen on the JB Hunt side. So,
oh my goodness. Well, is there anything that you'd like to share with the Serve2Perform audience that you'd like to say?
Well, I would again, going back to, I thank you for this opportunity. And I know it takes a village to do what you guys do. And so there's many out there that are doing this. I just say, keep up the good work. It's recognized and appreciated on my side. And I'm looking to continue to invest in this from time to time. Just like I said, you don't get time off as NFL, MLB players. They always have to practice. This is something you got to keep practicing. And, so I want to thank everyone that is watching this for what you do, because you have truly been an impact in my life, on a personal note, but also on a professional.
We'll make sure to mark that down. Serve2Perform.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brad, for taking the time to talk to us today.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Hi, and welcome to the Serve2Perform podcast. I am your host. My name is Angelica Casares. On today's episode, we have Mr. Louis Greth. Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
No, it's my pleasure.
Yeah. All right, Louis, I have a set of questions that I want to ask you, but first, I'd like you to introduce yourself.
All right. Let me see. How do I introduce myself? So I'm Louis Greth. I am a native of Tucson, Arizona. I live here in Northwest Arkansas with my wife, Susana, and my 3 boys. Adrian, who's a freshman right down the road at the University of Arkansas, and I have twin boys, Alec and Adan, who are freshmen at Bentonville High School. I work at Walmart. I've been at Walmart for almost 20 years. But yeah, the most important thing about me is my family. So that's why I started with them.
Absolutely. Yes, the most important part is your family and the reasons you do what you do.
Right.
Yeah. So a little questions for you. What is it exactly that you do with Walmart?
Yeah. So, like I said, I've been with the company for just about 20 years now, and I've had the pleasure to be able to do many different roles kind of throughout that time. But currently, I serve as the senior director for private brands. I have responsibility for the pets and the baby departments, and and it's really rewarding. Firstly, especially right now when times are a little bit tough and people are looking to really kind of stretch their money and budgets. Working in private brands has really been rewarding because I really do believe that we're trying hard to make really good quality products at prices that, customers can afford. And so it's really been a lot of fun. And, whether you're buying things for your fur babies or your real babies, my team's really focused on delivering kind of on that promise for them. So that's what I do.
I like that. Your fur babies or your real babies.
That's right. Yeah.
I really, really like that. So the reason we're here today is to talk a little bit about Serve2Perform. So one of the questions that I have for you is, how has Serve2Perform production elevated your career or empowered you as a leader?
Yeah. Well, listen, I've had the pleasure of getting to work with Serve2Perform. I would say a lot more, a lot closer over the last few years. Certainly, I have a relationship with Dr. Adam Arroyos. He and I met when we were both at Walmart many, many years ago and kind of became, friends back then. But so they, Dr. Adam reached out to me a few years ago. I was actually, at the time, I was not with Walmart. I had left the company for a couple of years, and I was doing some other passion projects kind of while I was outside of the company. And, he approached me about this idea of starting a group, called Latinx NA. And, one of the things he wanted to do was a couple things, just kind of talk to me about it and get my thoughts. But, one thing he wanted to do was recognize me at a banquet that they were going to have around my involvement in helping start the Bentonville Film Festival. And it was kind of interesting. And it's one of those things where, I never really thought about it. I wasn't looking to be recognized for that. But, he explained how it was important to make sure that we were letting other Latinos know that it was a Latino who was kind of the driving force behind, that film festival. So anyway, so that was kind of the start of kind of my journey. Most recently, I think with Serve2Perform. So I gladly, accepted that opportunity to kind of represent that. And then ever since then, I've really been heavily involved in Latinx NA, whether I was serving as a co-chair, as an executive advisor, whatever they need, I try to be there. So that's kind of been my involvement with them, I think, for the last couple of years at least. So.
I want to dive into the next question, but before we move on, I want to ask you about the Bentonville Film Festival. Can you tell me just a little bit about why did you think it was important to bring such a product like that, a film festival here to the area?
Yeah, great question. I certainly understand, the platform that I think Walmart affords us. It's a huge company and we get to make things and do things at scale. And that's really what's drawn me to be at Walmart as long as I have been. And Walmart had, at the time, they had an initiative that they called it the Women's Economic Empowerment Initiative. And the idea was to support women-owned businesses. How can we actually help more women-owned businesses sell at Walmart? And as I thought about that within the categories that I managed at the time, so at the time I was actually over all the movie, DVD, Blu-ray business at Walmart. The reality is none of the major studios are owned by women.
No, they're not.
So I was like, okay, well, I can't really buy more movies, from women-owned businesses, but I knew that Walmart was important to Hollywood and to the studios, and I knew that we actually had leverage that we could use in a positive way. And so So my team and I came up with the idea of like, well, what if we were to have a film festival that actually supported women and minority voices? And that was kind of the idea. And I just, I happened to be having a supplier appointment with one of my suppliers. And the gentleman was by the name of Trevor Drinkwater. And I just shared the idea. We were done doing our business and we had a few minutes. And I said, hey, I've got this crazy idea. Just want to run it by you and see what you think. And I said, do you think people would come to Northwest Arkansas for a film festival? And he kind of looked at me weird and he said, what do you mean? I said, well, I think it'd be important to kind of start a film festival that supports women and diversity. And, the great thing is I think I shared the idea with the right person because he loved it. He ran with it. I didn't know this at the time, but he happened to be neighbors with Gina Davis, which was like, that was weird, And next thing I know, like a couple months later, he's like, hey, Gina like loves this idea. And I didn't know that Gina had her own nonprofit around women and gender in the media, and she was really behind that work in a major way. And so it just really all aligned. It was really kind of surreal. And so she flew into town and we started looking at where could we have this and looking at different venues. And, I would say, gosh, I can't remember now, but like within about a year, we had pulled it all together and launched the first film festival. And, and it was just a lot of fun to just be a part of that because I would say that what was really rewarding for me was meeting with the filmmakers when they would come into town, and they were just so thankful and very grateful that Walmart and that just in general that people were supporting women and diversity. And so anyway, so that made it really just kind of worth it.
Well, I attended some of it last year and I thought what a great, like amazing opportunity to be able to bring in the talent, not only from women, but I've seen some women Latinas out there doing amazing things. That's definitely a caveat to what you do with Serve2Perform.
It is. I mean, to me, kind of serving the communities that we live in and being a part of the communities has always been very important. And, to me, again, it was just something that, again, Walmart kind of afforded me that platform and, just the idea just kind of took up a life of its own. And I was just really pleased to see kind of what it turned into. And again, and the impact that it has had, because I do know that a lot of filmmakers are very, appreciative of the fact that we're giving them this platform
the space.
To be able to, yeah, absolutely.
I think that's absolutely amazing. I'm going to turn the wheel just a little bit and I'm going to dial it into, I've heard you also had an amazing story about the board service.
Yeah.
About what you have
absolutely.
to do.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that, I definitely want people to get out of this talk is that, even though hopefully I feel like I'm helping to support others and lift up Latinos in the community, we all need that help too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm certainly, probably a good example of that. And so, so board service is something that was important to me. I had not had experience in doing it, but I was definitely interested in doing it. And I wanted to be very thoughtful about the organizations that I would do it with, because, the reality is I am very busy, work keeps me very busy. I have a very busy, kind of family life with my kids who play lots of sports and things like that. So, I do realize that I have to be kind of mindful of what do I spend my time doing. And so, the Boys and Girls Club was an organization that, actually I benefited from as a boy, as a kid growing up. Like I actually attended the Boys and Girls Club. I'm a product of it. And so I certainly knew the value that it brought and what it can do to help really shape, a lot of youth in terms of kind of empowering them to go on and do positive things. And so for me, it was one of those organizations that I really, kind of said like, that would be an organization that I'd want to serve for and give back to. And so, so the story went that, I approached them and obviously they're a huge nonprofit in the area and they have lots of people that want to serve for them. So at the time, they had kind of like a full slate of board members. And I was kind of told like, okay, well, it's great. Maybe you can serve in some other things. And then, maybe we'll see when there's an opportunity. And so I kind of said, well, okay, well, I will. And I kind of took away, but we were having a session, the Serve2Perform team in Latinx, and we were having a session about board service. And I remember just bringing it up because I was like, well, I'm just going to bring it up. Like, well, hey, I want to serve on a board, and I had this experience, and I'm really interested in serving for the board there, and I remember Dr. Adam just kind of chimed in and said, well, we know people at the Boys and Girls Club. Like, hold on, let me connect you and let me do this and that. And so, from that call, he ended up connecting me with somebody that they knew that kind of served at a higher level within the Boys and Girls Club. And long story short, through that connection, I was able to then kind of come back and have another meeting and really kind of go back and say, this is really why it's important to me. This is why I want to serve on your board. And, I would say that if it wasn't for, Serve2Perform and Latinx NA, and really them empowering me, I don't think I would have gone back a second time to ask, but I'm really glad I did, and I'm glad that, I feel like I had that, kind of empowerment and like, hold on, like I can add a lot of value to your board. And this is why I think it's important. And anyway, so because of that support and because of all that, is the reason I'm on the board today. I've been on the board now for a little over a year. And actually now I lead the board's diversity and inclusion initiatives. But again, I definitely would give the credit back to the support that I got from again, Latinx NA and Serve2Perform, because I just feel like that's kind of why we're here. We're here to help lift up, others. We're here to empower them. And I don't think if I had had that support, I'm not sure I would have probably gone back again.
Yeah. Well, your story to be able to tell, the Boys and Girls Club, that my story is powerful and I'm a product of where this is really where I want to give back. Yeah. That's just an amazing story. Is there anything else you'd like to add, or what Serve2Perform has done for you?
Yeah. I mean, like, to me, I think it's just, one, a big thank you to everyone there and to the Latinx NA, specifically that group, just because, I think, what we're doing here is important, I think, to continue to reach out to the community, to continue to build that community and help connect the dots, because, I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to continue to grow and to achieve greater things, I think, if we help one another out. Right. And I think that, I would definitely say that Serve2Perform is a catalyst in terms of like bringing all of that together. So just want to thank you to them for doing that. But two, I would just say that as we continue to kind of, what's inspiring to me is that I think there's still so much more that we can do. I still think that we're very much in the very early stages of what this can be. And so I think that's what's really exciting.
I have to say, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for taking again the time to talk to us today, Luis.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure. Very nice to meet you.
Muchas gracias.
Yeah, thank you.